So next month when I'm up there.
Yeah, right, exactly. And yeah. In curiosity, nobody really knows what we do.
Well, that's-
What are you thinking about the supervisor race?
No,
Can't tell you.
I
It's
know,
on secret.
we get published about it.
Because I don't want to piss you off.
Well, if you're writing in for one.
I got the call on my
I'm
hand.
sick of doing my own writing.
On my way out the
At least I ran for the job.
All right, everybody.
Come back to me and say,
Oh, I wish you
would still run and stuff, but you can't
Well, you need a motion to
Okay, a motion to resume the meeting, Hamburg IDA Board of Directors meeting at 5:09 PM, please.
Motion.
Thank you. Was that second, Bob?
Wednesday. Second.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Back to business here. Motion to approve the minutes from the August 18th, 2021 Board of Directors meeting.
So.
Thank you, Davis. Thank you, Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the minutes from the September 10th, 2021 Board of Directors meeting.
You're on a roll, kid.
Motion?
So.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Norma. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, financial report.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we had about $12,000 in expenses this month. We did not have a high income. I think we missed the interest, their interest this month probably didn't get filed in time. So we had a $12,065.90 we spent this month with no income. But our net assets for the month of August 31st, 2021 are $972,040.59. Motion to approve.
Thank
Make
you.
that motion.
Thank you. And any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next is to me, local labor policy. I've been circulating some emails around to some of the members regarding a framework of a policy that would result in some fees for waiving local labor policy, and essentially they'd be percentage based potentially. So the more deviation from our standard of 90% local labor, the more fees that you would incur based on the project amount and the amount of outsourced labor. We would propose initially, and certainly this can be up for discussion as we work through this framework, but we're initially proposing that it would go to a 501c3 of the Board of Cooperative Educational Services. So then these monies would not essentially go back and go back to the pockets of the IDA. It would go towards employment training through a not-for-profit corporation of BOCES. So right now, we're continuing to vet this idea through the state to see if it is legal and to see if it would be agreeable to the Authority Budget Office, which is one of our auditing entities. So once we have some feedback from them, we'll resume it with the board. So right now it's still open. Just wanted to provide an update, and then we'll continue to carry this. Any questions or comments at this time?
Hey, Sean, I think it's a great direction. Keep it up.
Good.
Can I get in on that?
Emails?
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
thank you.
The more outside labor, the bigger the percentage of the
Exactly.
commensurate with
If we finalize this, in my opinion, we should talk to Sean Ryan and our senator. See if we can do something on a state level where they start looking, if they're always putting stuff in, this is a great thing for the IDA to do on a state level.
Mhm.
I'm not sure they're gonna wanna cozy up.
I know.
They may take the idea and run with it, but at least they would
At that
remember
point,
where it came
doesn't
from.
matter if it's something good, it's not.
Right.
They take
Yeah.
this idea. To me, I personally.
Supervisor Shaw unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. We had talked about potential of IDA membership, attending a town board meeting. or supervisor attending one of our future IDA meetings. I don't know if anyone has any preference to either or, but we did. I would like to, at least minimally submit a letter to him. And we did, as an agency, do a $500 donation to Feed More Hamburg in his name. So it was, I think that's a great thank you, but we'll look to reconnect. I don't know if anyone has any impressions, or, I can round out with the supervisor and see what his availability is, but he had some pressing matters with the town.
I like the idea of the supervisor attending their IDA meetings.
Okay.
They used to, they always did before.
Yeah, he has from time to time. So.
Right.
Yes.
And we don't want him on board. Oops. I'm on live.
Well, they'll just be here, voice and no vote, right? That's fine.
Well, it's completely legal that a town board member or supervisor could sit on our board.
Yes.
So,
At the very least, I think his work and dedication at Town Hamburg should be recognized by us in some way. shape,
yeah, no doubt.
In a public manner. So either at an IDA meeting, like you're suggesting, Norma, or actually, I even volunteered to go there to a council privilege of the floor. I'll go up there and embarrass them. I don't care. But I think it's more.
Good.
I mean, the supervisor should occasionally attend these meetings. I mean, not as a voting member or a member of the board. I think it's fair that they separate themselves from the
Yeah.
board itself.
Well, I think there are some gaps.
Councilman too.
There are,
They should not be.
this is more so jumping ahead to the strategic planning, but based on the conversation that I had yesterday, there are gaps in communication. And I think as a director, even as a board, we need to look to fill those gaps in communication, because some things that I was with Sean Connolly, we had the chamber golf outing and spent hours with him yesterday. And I was kind of surprised as I was telling him what we've been doing, how much he didn't even know. So that's, I
At
think
some
we
point,
need
they
to
gotta
close
take,
the
they
loop.
should be taking an interest themselves as an elected official.
We make, we're jumping around a little bit, but we do make efforts, Mary, the minutes go to all the board members. So we have that, and certainly if they opt to watch these meetings on YouTube and whatnot, that's their prerogative. But there's that opportunity as well, but I don't know, we can talk about it as we go forward later. If you have other ideas, or I do connect with the supervisor on a monthly basis. He's the liaison to the IDA, the board liaison to the agency. So he essentially gets a download, and certainly, hopefully I'm savvy enough to bring to, the supervisor's attention, whoever that may be, as the role stands, if there's a matter that, may render a call from like the Buffalo News or something like that, to say, hey, you want to heads up on this one, if it's something that could be provocative or whatnot. So we do regularly meet, and then on an ad hoc basis, if needed, connect to know what's going on.
Yeah, but I just don't, why wouldn't the elected officials want to take interest in what we're doing? I think the only time that Jim showed up at the Amazon one, and I don't remember if any other,
Yeah, a couple times, but
the
not.
the council members, have we seen?
No.
I mean, I would want to take an interest if I was a council member, what we're up to,
I think they should attend a meeting occasionally.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be the supervisor, maybe one of the council people. I mean, we are sending, whatever you send to the supervisor, I assume is being sent to the council at large. Yeah.
Okay. We can talk a little bit more about that.
Sometimes I stop. If you're saying you work for a person,
Thank you.
may not get to the rest of the board.
Dedication.
Hey, you gotta need that, right? That you did-
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if there's, I don't know if you have any other ideas, or if you think we just can keep what we're doing and the onus is on them.
I mean, there's nothing, we can't mandate today.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
exactly.
it's.
We can certainly encourage it and continue to reach out. Just from-
I mean, have we invited them?
Extended invitation.
They haven't been specifically invited, so that's an opportunity. I think that's a good point. The other point that I had is, I could make it a point, I was thinking like it would make sense like quarterly to attend a work session of the town board and even the village board, just to kind of give like a quarterly state of affairs. So that would be an opportunity there. And that's reasonable. Quarterly, I think, monthly, it's just between the two villages in the town. That's a lot of work, it's a lot.
I like the idea of you including the villages in some kind of debrief of what we're doing for their interests,
Yeah. Okay.
but that's just me.
Yeah, sometimes it ebbs and flows and it might be more town-wide than village-wide, like obviously there's, today's project was in front of the village and there's a upcoming one. Mark your calendars on October 17th. I think, Mary, you sent out these emails, so the heads up on these public
Is that
hearings.
on a Sunday?
That's it. It was a Monday for a public hearing. On Grimsview properties, that's at 160 Grimsby.
Yeah, 17th is Sunday.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And so it's the 18th, sorry. So Jennifer, we don't have the application on that yet, so we're a little far ahead, but the 18th, thank you. Yeah, so no materials have gone out. We don't have the full application in. I should have it tomorrow, Jennifer.
Extend the invitation for one of them to attend the occasional meeting every 2 or 3 months. That way, we're not meeting them for the first time. They're not meeting this board at a controversial project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Typically through, I'm certainly not strangers with them, through chamber events and town, no strangers, but in talking.
More towards the complete board.
Yeah, and even what the tires were kicking at Scott Street, Pitch Hamburg, Sean Connolly didn't, he was like, oh, I'm like, wow, you don't know about this stuff. So. All right. Yeah. You got soup, right? One.
Oh, I got to go.
Oh, okay.
One.
All right, I'm gonna get into some of our kind of strategic programming here. So just eat and we'll kind of work through this. I had a kind of recap. We did have a strategic meeting. It was a very productive meeting in the fall of 2019. Where we talked about some initiatives. So I want to kind of talk to where we are today. You may have had an opportunity to go through some of the minutes from that meeting. And we can talk about some marks that we hit and some marks I think where we fell short. And then essentially the result of this meeting is to do some planning and get some guidance for the next year or two until we reconvene and in a strategic type sense and do the same thing, just measure our progress against our goals. Let's take this out. Stick it in. Here. So this is a bit of a recap. You guys probably can't see this too well. I'm gonna hold this. No, this is, no, you sit. I got it.
It's okay.
No. I should have left it on the easel. I forgot about. Oh, you know what?
I can do it again in white.
Stick it on the old man's picture.
I don't want to stick it.
Dude, that's just.
That is a piece of crap.
You're the old
This is-
man.
Yeah,
Wait,
this is
when I
good
was a
stuff.
teenager.
And you lost, I know you did.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is a quick recap, kind of talking about the progress since 2018. We've had 118,300,000 and change in investment in the town of Hamburg. So when you see a project like Iskolo that you saw today and the project value of $4.5 million, that's the roll up of this. And certainly, you know, we've had big projects like Amazon, $42 million. So some of the projects are bigger and a lot of them are smaller. But I mean, from an assessment perspective, even on a generous scale, that probably results in about 25 million or more in assessed value. So that's a lot of revenue to the taxing jurisdictions in the town of Hamburg. 150 new jobs. So these are permanent jobs. So this does not talk to the temporary construction jobs associated with the project. And this also doesn't talk to the jobs that are lost. You know, so for Iskolo, you know, using that one as a recent example, they're retaining 20 jobs and adding another 10. Maybe if that project would not be approved or would not be incentivized, those jobs would, you know, you lose not only the created jobs, but the current employment, which is typically a larger number. So not only are we retaining jobs to probably the 300 level, you know, 2-to-1 ratio, but you're creating another 150.
Just spin off. What do you think the spin off is?
Yeah, that would be more in our like in-plan models, but certainly, you know, all the materials purchased. You know, unfortunately, not a lot of construction materials are produced, you know, even in Western New York, but
But they're spin off jobs.
from that,
They're spin off investment in jobs from these bigger.
from the earners, yeah, then going out and making purchases of goods and services.
Yes.
Land sales, $1,479,000 for the land in the Lake Erie Commerce Center. So that's essentially, you know, very positive because we're looking to catalyze development over there. So if it's just sitting on our books, we at least as we had it, we're not adding any taxable value. And then the loan fund, that's through not through your corporation, you know, it's through a different board, but it's an important number. $437,000 that we've lent out to businesses in the town of Hamburg. And these are typically, you know, the loan fund businesses are not like the E-ones. You know, these are startup, typically smaller businesses, 25 employees or less, that are not suitable for conventional financing. So these businesses may have ceased to exist if they weren't lent. So this is kind of a great snapshot of our economic impact as a board and as an agency throughout the town of Hamburg. Just talking about the financial position of the agency, where we are from, I'm looking at this from December. So the financial position of the agency has changed dramatically in the last 8 months, 7 months, 8 months in 2021. It's been a busy year. This at year end 2020, we had $652,000 roughly is in the bank in assets. We don't really, as an agency, carry any debt at this time, so it's a pretty straightforward picture. In August, as Bob had mentioned, we had an increase in position to $972,000. We're projecting with projects approved that we're looking to close this year, Jennifer and I, to roll in after expenses at over $1.1 million for the year. So in a year, we've increased our position 75%, which is insane. This has been a banner year. Certainly, it's been the most profitable year for the IGA. We've seen the most amount of project revenue in the agency's history. The second being when there was the Emmerich or the FedEx project. So, but even beyond the Amazon, there's been some substantial projects with Key Capture Energy, decent projects like the Iskolo one. We had race storage shed. So even the smaller projects can add up to large numbers. Carbon activated, I think that was a $5 million project in town as well. The Land Development Corp. In a similar situation. It's hard to look at this and put a lot of onus, at least for me, on these numbers, because we took something which was a land asset and converted it to cash. So we did give up something to gain our financial position. So it increased 128%, but it's not like we got that increase essentially through work. We put forth an asset to gain that cash. But again, we talked about some of the other, the return with essentially deploying that land was to, the end game is to get taxable value and jobs in Hamburg. Pitch Hamburg is a great story. That's the not-for-profit. Essentially, it's been an out-of-pocket venture for the members, the board members, including myself. We had a decent private donation of $500, and then we had received some of the proceeds from the Chamber Golf Tournament that was yesterday. So the Chamber had donated $1,250 into Pitch Hamburg. So it's a very grueling project at this time to try to formulate the not-for-profit status and give confidence to people to give their money away. That's essentially what we're doing. So I've learned it's first nonprofit. It's not an easy path, but this money will allow us to, even at this little extent, will allow us to legally operate. We have we have audits, we have filings that we have to maintain. And go ahead, you can call.
Thank you.
And beyond that, we will look to, other funding sources, the IDA, we will look to the town for ARPA funding, and that will then leverage the current resources, the current cash that we have to get in new resources. So ideally, we will begin to involve a grant writing consultant to seek funds to support the agency, the not-for-profit. We will look, if it's looked upon favorably with the town, we're proposing to the town that they fund the agency so they can establish human resources, so that we can essentially have part or full-time staff.
Anybody on the
to
town
run
on
that.
that?
From a government perspective, no. Right now, the superintendent, Mike Cornell, is probably the most quasi-governmental person that sits on the board. The board only has 4 members. We're talking about expanding the board now that, there was less liability when we had no money. I don't think we needed a lot of financial controls when there were really no finances. But now that we're starting to get donations and manage a bank account, I think for even just for financial controls, we're going to look to increase that. So, but at this time,
Not a very good person. Got paid in baseball.
okay. So from our last meeting in 2019, I just want to talk about some wins and losses or opportunities. So the opportunities to keep it a little bit more positive. But certainly the development of 56 acres that have been sitting for decades in the Lake Erie Commerce Center is a good win. The Oaks at South Park, I know a number of us feel that, number one, it was a tremendous investment. And it's really reactivated, a potential school that could have been sitting for even longer to today. And who knows? You never know if it's helped Hilbert. But one thing, though, that I always have in my mind, and I see it on the other corner of South Park and Souls, is, you're taking your son or daughter to look at this college and maybe play, field hockey there, soccer there, or whatnot. And You're spending tens of thousands of dollars a semester for room and board and for the education, and you're flanked by vacant parcels. I mean, it's not, it's not an urban area that would have concern, but it's just, doesn't look good in my mind. So that always poses the question. So certainly the reuse over there, it seems like a great project. 3830 Jeffrey, we've talked about that before. That's always one that I've been having, and I feel is a strong win because that building was just sitting and not getting any money back to the town. E1 is a great employer, great paying jobs. Key Energy, #1 in dollar value. It's a large project. So that investment is great. Again, it's a parcel activated that would otherwise be doing nothing.
That's a rough parcel, right?
That parcel is,
Very aware.
other, highest and best use other than battery storage at that site was landscaping storage, so it was, essentially like a yard. It wasn't really buildable. So it's fulfilling some of the goals of the greening initiatives, and it's, now contributing and a very good contributor for the village of Blaisdell particularly. So that's something that, we should, as the agency, I think that's something to seek out, some of those parcels. You don't need a lot of land for these battery projects. So if we can land a couple of these in Hamburg, I think that they're great for the IDA and the taxing jurisdictions. Pitch Hamburg is another one. We've been talking about that. And then certainly like internal operations, human resources, you as a board, we as an agency have not had to deal with staff turnover. Mary has, it still kind of boggles our mind as we go through files when we're looking from files from years past, like where things have vaporized to. We've shifted more so from paper and consuming all this space and just, packing up the office to having things more electronically. It allows us to be more efficient to the state. So, typically on an annual basis, we'll get questions based on our filings to the Authority Budget Office of the State Controller. We're not running to the basement to go through files. We're clicking on an attachment for a project agent agreement that's scanned, and it can go right off to them. So those things, as simple as they
A lot of work
they
to
would
get to
be
that point.
in the, we're not, going forward, we've kind of changed the processes, but I mean, these are very common activities in normal business, but the agency didn't have. And then grants, on a small scale, we've started to, seek out grants for the Land Corp. We got the National Grid grant. I think, you can't ask for money if you're not doing it. So now with Scott Street, you gotta demonstrate a need. So if it's an initiative, and this wasn't an initiative that we set forth to get the grant, you have to be in a position that you're demonstrating a need for the money. Certainly National Grid and working with the land disposition was one, and now Scott Street and potentially looking at the financial lift and the burden to get that redeveloped would be another. Opportunities, high-paying jobs. High-paying jobs are very hard to come by, but that's an area that we still need to put a lot of emphasis on because we're falling short. As a developer, the woulda, coulda, shoulda, or the one that got away, for me, would be like Evans Bank is one, but actually that building set out on a good path. It's set out on a good path, so that's that redevelopment is kind of moving along nicely. But Kubrick was one, and I don't know if the project fully got out to the board by name, but Kubrick is a company located in Cheektowaga, and they had a potential expansion, and it would have been, I think it was like 220 jobs in the six-figure range coming to Hamburg. So that was a huge one. Post-mortem, looking back on that project, that we might want to put the agency in a position where we put together a very ambitious package to lure these developers, to know that, we know it, but this was the writing on the wall. You can come in.
No, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Do you guys need drinks or anything? You sure?
Too late.
He's right there.
Need a drink? No, there's doers, right? You got it.
You got old duels? It's a non-alcoholic beverage.
Sorry, it's good.
What did you get? Oh, duels.
Yeah, it's not alcoholic.
Sit in there.
So,
I'll take less size.
you know, I think we were talking a 15-year pilot with them, which is within the confines of the UTEP is where they were eligible.
Can I add on to that? Sean?
Yeah.
And just where it's so important as the executive committee, I mean, this is all conversations that are happening in the middle of COVID. And then there was a lot of decisions had to have been made for the betterment of the community and, you know, we hope we make the right decisions, right? And so Kubrick, from what I remember, didn't have financing yet, right?
This was not, I don't know if we failed or, you know, we didn't get the project.
It's a good opportunity that we would
But
want.
nobody got the project.
Nobody got it. It didn't end up moving. It didn't go anywhere. But
I just wanted to say that so we don't get the wrong choice that one went instead of the other.
true.
One went, one, and we got it.
Yeah.
Right here.
But, you know, we may, you know, these are, you know, we can do deviations from the pilot.
I don't want.
So, you know, maybe next time, you know, this is talking and planning and looking into the future. Because hopefully we have another Kubrick that comes around, right? That we would look at a 25-year incentive.
But that type of thing gets out, I mean, that we were willing to work with a Kubrick with something a little bit different, give them a bigger incentive for that type of project. That's gonna give you some momentum with site developers and so forth, people out there looking for a place, so. I think it was a waste, I think, you know, we took 50% of that one. We got the Amazon, we didn't get Kubrick, you know.
Yeah, but did they go forward with the project?
They didn't know, they're
They
still.
didn't, their business kind of,
So,
they lost a lot with, it's in bad defense.
Oh,
They didn't hold up their end of the bargain, so I'm not sure they would have,
Been successful.
yeah, they probably wouldn't have materialized jobs the way they proposed.
Okay. What were you gonna say, Jennifer?
As the local IDAs and the East IDA get together to do the teaching, just remember that you don't have to reach that. You could have your own.
That's a good point too. And we'll be looking at
You
that.
know, the joint one, you have deviation.
Yeah.
When do we meet with the Erie County?
Yes.
We met a little
We
while
do.
ago.
Well, I do. Come on in, Dennis.
About time you did some work.
Oh, I got it. You know what? Yeah.
He's leaving already, isn't he?
My daddy's, but it's all right. My daddy needing to, basketball partner right here.
Nice.
I got my steak.
Of course.
Must have known.
So, no, you know what, I don't wanna paint it as negative, but like, you know, maybe when we, you know, next time you can look at, and I think this is crazy to the other side, but, and every county, every municipality is different, has their own needs. So, you're fine, Dennis. Oh, thank you. The Cattaraugus County, you know, had a 20-year no tax pilot, nothing, free ride. And then the next 5 years, so the 20 years, 21 through 25, they're paying half their taxes.
That was the cheese one, right, Sean?
Yeah, this is
The
Manicago.
bottle of farmland.
Oh, the cheese. No, I thought you were talking about like that. Yeah.
No. I think it's Cuba cheese, right?
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, I'm not gonna sit and pass judgment. I wasn't in the meetings. I don't know what their climate is. I don't know, you know. But you know, if we're looking at an opportunity, or you know, we've been targeting, you know, when it comes around, we can say, look, we've been talking about high-paying jobs for 3 years now. What are we gonna do to land?
And if I could ask this of my brothers from over there, Bob and Vince, and I would ask honestly, this kind of position comes up and it's just a sweetheart deal for the community and it's great paying jobs. How far are we willing to go? Like, and I use this example because it's true. It doesn't matter, pick a state. I had a friend that operates probably, I think it was $20-30 million a year business. He gets calls from states all the
Thank you.
time to move to their state. Now, he hasn't moved, but why I bring it up is I think we need to be very aggressive when the opportunity brings itself up. Let's say it's a huge car manufacturer, all units. What are we willing to do as an agency
Yeah.
to get that project? Obviously, it depends on the project as it comes up, right? There's a lot of unknowns there. But we gotta think of it as board, what are we willing to do here?
Well, that's their question, which you shouldn't have did. You know, and I'm not answering for once, but obviously, you know, coming from labor and stuff like that, we have to look at the pay is always going up in the state. I mean, $18, Amazon's paying $18 now, they're gonna go a bit more because of the way everything is. But I don't know if you guys know about Tony Stock, what Tony Stock did in a national magazine just now. They're expanding their building over there in their village right now because they're bringing out this new machine center. It's bringing jobs for those guys. You know, it's just not an auto industry or something like this. You have to take a look at the technology. And I think we really were strong in technology in this area, but I think these young kids have gone away from being skilled workers. And I think that's what made this area the skilled workers. So I'm always willing, you know, to get any job in. And I'll be honest with you, but we need a better skilled workforce right now than we have right now coming up. Not talking about the old timers, I'm talking about the young kids right now. That's why I always talk to Davis and stuff. It's so important to get these skilled young kids to come and stay in our communities. I think that's the real key.
So when
Bringing the jobs in.
when we're looking at these projects, that's your decision making.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, so to answer, so Bob brought up a good point. So at General Motors, we're looking to hire 34 skilled tradesmen. We've only hired 4 and we've been looking for 3 months. It's a $36 an hour job with as much overtime as you could want. And we can't find any qualified skilled tradesmen to work in our plants. We've actually stolen some from Ford. Believe it or not, they'd rather work for a real company, so they've come over to ours.
We're gonna drive a Ford, but it's all right.
I'm messing with him.
You should see me, my new Bronco.
But to answer your question, you know, there's opportunities that our companies are looking for. And, you know, a big company like that, I mean, they're talking in the state about tax incentives and everything. I don't know how much the IDA would really, but we have to go, I think we have to go all out for quality jobs. If you're talking like was it Kubrick you were talking about?
Mhm.
And that was the engineers that with the over by the airport or whatever, we were trying to snipe that place, but you know, that's $120,000 a year. I mean, them are people that are gonna add to the community. It's a good question. I don't know if going far enough is enough for jobs like that.
I don't know, I'm just trying to get there.
Yeah. But it's interesting, like, you know, Erie County, I wonder what they're saying, because it almost seems like we got Sean, who was doing an amazing job. You know, I think we're all in agreement on that. It's just amazing, everything you put together and everything. You're like, very impressive every time you talk. I'm learning something. But we're all working together. You know, even when we disagree, we respect each other's opinions. And from what I gather from Erie County, a lot of it's always seems like it's tells. Like, I'm going to tell you we're going to do this, rather than, you know, we're getting together and we're kind of discussing it. And even when we disagree, you guys understand the point of view that we have. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I appreciate everybody in this room and all your input. And I apologize I can't make a lot of the morning meetings, but Andy takes the time to call me sometimes. I bother Sean with questions, and I'm always bothering Bob with questions, so I appreciate it.
Bob, you look at history of this Western New York area. It was built, the products that come out of that, people, you ask them where that comes from, they wouldn't know what came from. Like Tyvek and the different chemicals things that came on it. Or, a lot of stuff that just was developed here in the area.
Mhm.
But it all came on the back of skilled tradespeople.
Mhm.
And schooling is so, that's why, school board members, I've served on it. It's so important that we push schooling. And Sean's been pushing with Dick Stanford and everything else out there, bringing money in if they don't do things. Because next generation, you gotta realize something, our resources here are tremendous. We have water, which is gonna be very huge going in the world nowadays. I can see that. And we have cheap electrical power out in Niagara Falls. But we need a good skilled workforce, and that is one of the keys, that people can make. I don't know the math, you know what I'm saying, but it's stuff like this. It's not about football, because none of us, when you wanna go play football, there's what percentage makes. It's the math, it's the mathematicians and scientists and stuff.
Well, we're already to that next generation that the powers that be have pushed the college as they wanted that to be your only option. And they went away from the skilled trades, especially, like I came out of the Buffalo Public Schools and they closed down Seneca Vocational. They limited some other vocational schools, push the kids towards college. Now we got no skilled tradesmen. The people in my class who went to college, they're still paying on their college degrees and they're making less than I make.
I guess, and I don't know how Pam would feel, I feel like there's definitely been more, at least talked about shifting away from that. We try to encourage kids, you don't have to go to college, there's a lot of talk about that in the last at least 5 years, but how much,
I think it's just
how
that.
much doing that.
Yeah. I was just gonna ask you, don't you, like, I know it's at the table, but I don't know how much we're really enforcing that. How much we really saying to guys.
And I,
Push posts, and it's inconvenient, right? I mean,
and I get
boss will be gone for 3/4 of the day at posties. You're not really in your high school, like,
You have different friends, yeah.
well, you gotta make that decision when you're 15, and you're probably, maybe you've been in trouble or something that's causing them to approach that stuff.
Yeah.
Doesn't exactly seem like a appealing option in the moment.
It's not like how it was, but I think there still is the stigma on policies of, you're a bad kid. Or smart kid or whatever.
As like a third party, what raises eyebrows is, at the end of the year, right, the schools roll out how many dollars in scholarship. And, and it's like, who's going to Ivy League schools or who's going to D1 schools? And it's like, as much as somebody comes in and works at our house, and, I'll show my daughters the cash. And typically those guys are getting 800 in cash, like a plumber or whatever. I'm like, look, girls, look, because they could be my women-owned businesses too, which is another whole topic. But
I guess
it sways you the other way when you see the publications and the numbers.
Look at E1, the jobs at E1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was huge. That's a big place.
But yeah, I mean, the moral of it was to really, at a point, this was a learning experience for me too, as I grow in this economic development world. Maybe it's like, all right, this one, we're not gonna let this go. So what, at a point it may come to, and I'm not priming you for anything, because there's, nothing there. But it's like, how are we gonna land that the next big fish?
Like, I don't know about anybody else, personally, the 4.5 million over, not even $1 million, the projects that's family-owned business, that people that really use it, that gets me. That's why I go through not every meeting. I try to make every meeting. So, to know what you said, guys, I appreciate, because what we're looking at as far as our labor policy, and if we can create a mechanism to encourage young people, or even people looking for a second career, to go into the trades, and the money's that they only got to pay for it, right? I mean, to get to that point where if you can do the work and you want to do the work, you don't have to worry about paying for it. I mean, how much more can you do? You can't really do much more than that.
The labor shortage was in skilled trades.
Huge.
Yeah. The windmills was a skilled trade shortage in a sense. So they said they weren't trained properly.
Ironworkers would disagree.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, and that's why we wanted to do our labor thing. But that's what it's about. I mean, we knew we had people here.
It's the skill trade school, I would pick those high school ones. Tell these kids, because a lot of times these kids have no idea.
We used to do that,
We still do. We have an open house every year. The building trades have an open house every year, invite all the schools.
but we used to do that from General Motors. We would go to McKinley High School.
You come to the
Yeah.
school like the military? Or you-
No.
I think going to the school is important.
Good.
But you know what? With Ford being in Hamburg, it might not be a bad idea to have your apprentice
I
chairperson.
was telling Davis that we used to have an internship at Ford under Dr. Roswell, that they would send kids over and they'd be an intern for the summer. Now they didn't get paid or something like this on there. We pay them a little money, but they learned the whole system of being down on the floor of production. It's amazing.
That's
It was huge.
I've worked on an intern now, I can't say, but my new employer.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this kid is in college, and he's in college, and he's an intern, he's getting paid money, but he's getting a full spectrum of what we do. I've been working 23 years in the construction field, and he's getting a front door access to the information that I have.
Maybe we should take the guidance counselors there.
Yeah.
Just saying. Huh? Is that a bad idea?
Bad idea at all.
To understand what, I'm a machine repairman.
I don't know if they need to walk the floor, but I think they need to hear that.
I'm a machine repairman by trade, but I picked up electrical and plumbing, so I could remodel my whole house, right? Because I had all the basic trades, you know, which.
I think the stronger argument is what Gwen said earlier, you got $36 an hour job.
Yeah.
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 Can't
Phil.
fill.
That's without benefits.
Ford's got the same problem right now in our skilled trades. We
Yeah.
can fill production jobs. but
No,
skilled
we've
trades-
actually gone back and forth. When we get a little slow, they took some of our electricians, but we've taken, I'm not kidding, we took 4-year
Yeah.
trades because but we still have 30 openings and we can't find them. Can't find them anywhere.
Like 16, 17, you have no idea what kind of jobs are out in the world, other than the few that you've been exposed to.
Right. Or you're watching Hollywood for your advice on like, you know.
So Sean, how do we incentivize that?
Yeah, how do we do that, Sean? That's your goal. I'm
We're
done.
working
I'm
on
done.
We're working on the incentive. Well, and part of it though is the
That's how you can-
entrepreneurial culture. So Pitch Hamburg's a long game. I mean, you know, the projects that Pitch Hamburg will be working with 2 years from now, the IDA may not be for a decade. But, you know, that whole guys that Pitch Hamburg is about is to get younger people, to get all people really, to be able to develop an opportunity where they can own and operate a business, where they can make things, they can do things, they can formulate on their own. And the hopes of that is to create higher paying jobs, because these startup communities are typically more tech savvy, and those tech jobs will be a part of that. And in addition to that is people aren't relocating from generally from other parts of the country to do business in New York. You know, they'll locate here because they have to. If they can locate anywhere in the country that they want, they're not picking New York. I mean, it's just, you know, I think we're the 49th or 50th worst business climate every year. So if you cultivate this from within, we'd hopefully be less likely that these people, once they are successful, would, you know, jump ship or move out of Hamburg. Hopefully they'll expand in Hamburg. It'll, you know, have a positive impact on our commercial real estate market. It'll have a positive impact on our tax rolls and also the job. So I think Pitch Hamburg is a component of that. But we also have to look at potentially, and this was not even proposed, you know, this is not something that was shot down. It's just something that, you know, we didn't sit and talk about. What about laying a 25-year pilot? You know, maybe, and again, maybe Kubrick wouldn't have been, you know, the swan song that we would want at the end of the day anyway. But I think at least, you know, maybe those conversations, you know, would be doing soon. And it's a function of the economic impact. These are not numbers out of thin air. You know, Amazon, you know, one thing I'll stick with Amazon, and you'll see it. I don't know if it's even in this. I put my Escalo materials away. What was Escalo? No, the, you know, the discount is a function of the investment. So it's a function of the jobs. It's a function of what is going into the community. And it was more so as I've been looking at this next project coming up. you know, the discount rate was in the like 20%, 20+%. Amazon was like 10%. You know, those jobs, the incentives were less, and the contribution to the community was commensurately less with it. So if you're getting in you know, 10 six-figure paying jobs, you know, maybe we look at and see that model is, whoa, we're giving them a third off.
So I think what you're trying to say is that percentage, that percentile from cost benefit of
Yep.
the employee to the amount of investment, that percentage, what we should look at. So we really want to have like a baseline percentage, right? And say, so if it's $120,000 a year job, as long as the incentive doesn't fall below or go above 15%, whatever, pick a number, that would be a feasible project. Is that kind of what you're saying?
It's just saying that I use it, you know, I wouldn't like to roll up the Hamburg data, and this is probably more so the CAM, because I think our sample size is too small.
Okay.
You know, and the resources are not there at this time where we analyze this data statewide, where the IDAs pull this data and contribute to it all together. I don't know, maybe there's competitiveness, people don't want to share it, I just don't think the state is that savvy. But I think you could really model this and put some more sophistication to it. We are taking the baby steps of looking at that percentage, and you know, the lower percentages should align with the lower investments, the lower paying jobs. The higher percentage investment should just be commensurate with that. So I'd rather not get into frameworks, you know, to say like, if it's 35% or more, then it's to this extent. Because then that gets more into like a policy. I would rather have the deviation where we have the opportunity to. I just don't think we're not there. Okay. But yeah, so it's something to consider. The last item was another opportunity that we haven't focused on, was discussed in our last strategic planning, was partnerships with higher ed. So going back to the need for you know, qualified employees in roles, let's partner with the School of Engineering to like target employers and say like, look, there is a pipeline here for these jobs. If you're looking for X, or seek out employers that do what our college is trying to do. So one item that I want to take this year is to work with Hilbert. Hilbert has great criminal justice. They got forensics programs, you know, and so sit down with Dr. Brophy, the president of the college, and say, look, where are your, these people are going into roles. You can go to school right here at Hilbert and become a state trooper making, you know, in the mid-70s plus benefits. Out of the, you know, they'll go right into the academy. It's a great pipeline. They go in the Secret Service, they go in federal security jobs, they go in a contracting job. So who are these employers? And is there a match? Are we creating a cluster of employees here where we can, you know, should we have, you know, like ABC investigations, you know, maybe not like a private investigation type thing, but a security consultant that maybe works for national companies. You know, they exist. I don't know who they are, but I know larger companies, not just only for cybersecurity, but like how do we protect our employees? How do we prevent them from pandemics? You know, those companies maybe establish a firm employing 25, 30 people, but they're all security consultants making the higher paying jobs. So Hilbert, you know, might be a good example of that. Certainly the University of Buffalo is another great pipeline with all the jobs that we see. But I just have not, and we've talked about it, we haven't put efforts into that. We just don't think we need to.
What about, something came to my mind, ECC is technically in Hamburg, right? The campus?
I don't know.
No, what I'm saying is, like, what I'm getting at is, I heard that they're gonna supposedly close this campus down. Have you guys heard that?
The stadium was gonna go on the outside and, you know, it closed the campus down.
I don't see how they could, if they do that, then I think that would definitely be what happens. I just don't see how, I mean, there's space there, but I don't think you'd have a college there with a stadium right on top of it, you know, it's close enough as it is already.
I don't know. I didn't know if that would negatively affect Hamburg.
What do you think the ECC partnering up with them?
No, I'm just saying like that there might be potential land and I shouldn't have probably said anything, but
I'm sure they're looking.
So what's our objective with higher ed education?
I think,
Partnerships, right? Like, nobody's going to ECC and immediately coming and bringing a business to Hamburg.
I think that if these companies have,
Or even UB.
you know, so maybe if these companies have pipelines, you know, a lot of these jobs, like, is it, you know, what are the jobs? But I would imagine if you're working as like a security consultant, for, you know, my neighbor does some type of security work for HSBC. He never leaves his house. So, you know, do we establish, you know, would they be able to establish like an outpost? Or would we, you know, dedicate space at an incubator in town to say, you know, bring in, you know, give them some form where they can operate, you know, do their human resources, to fly in and meet with job candidates and vet job candidates that would have that skill set that would match with help. So that, my thought in terms of taking this forward would be to say, you know, first go meet with Dr. Brophy to get his approval, so it's headed at the top level. And then likely meet with a department head or any department heads, where we, if he thinks this would make sense. You know, to then work with these department heads who may have worked in the industry or have industry contacts. And then I would more so, you know, go out and connect with these people, these employers, and see if something would work out. You know, if we can fill their employees in that specific category and say like, well, what could we do to help? It's a thought.
I guess I just want, like, shouldn't Hillbrook be doing that?
Yeah.
Like, what do they need us to do?
Well, I guess if I'm Hilbert, I don't care if they work in Hamburg or not. You know, alls I care is of my graduating seniors, how many of them are employed after 12 months? What are they making? If you really
So
care.
you're thinking that the connection brings the business.
Yeah, to bring
The
my
availability of resources brings the business.
My thoughts, yeah.
We're not a broker of resources to businesses necessarily.
No, I think we just be a connector. You know, I need to learn what those employers are, what those companies are. I think they can help me with that. And I think that, you know, that we would reach out and say, how can, you know, are you seeking employees? And, you know, there's opportunities here with Hilbert, and, you know, so would probably be partnering with me, whatever the department head would be. And to see, I don't think, they would certainly not be opposed to it. I just don't think it's an initiative for them so much. I'm thinking it's something they don't focus on. Maybe they would, maybe it is an initiative down the line. But, you know, because again, you go back to touring colleges, if I could say, look, we do criminal justice and here's, you know, that these security companies that do the type of work that, you know, show the pipeline, you know, as it exists.
I think it's good to think outside the box. Yeah, I really do. I mean,
Over in Orchard Park, some of their council people had wrote an article that they gotta start thinking outside the box in Orchard Park, because with the new stadium gonna be going in over there, it's not zoned properly for some of your retail or whatever that could be going in that particular area. Even like hotels, that type of thing, it's not zoned for that. So he said they gotta get ahead of the curve here to make sure that things are gonna happen in a positive way. But their zoning and whatever, and think as a board outside the box to make sure things can happen in a positive way. Because he said you wait until the end, and then there's gonna be turmoil right down the line. And that's something maybe even in the town, we should be looking at too, is because part of that area. is gonna be within the town.
Yeah. Now that's zoning.
Yeah, so I mean, right now, would be a golden opportunity, take a look at it and see what the stadium actually is gonna be doing. and going from there, because that's gonna bring retail and whatever into the area.
Well, that, like Sean said, it's cluster, right? It's cluster. So we know that the Buffalo Bills, whether you love them or hate them, they bring a cluster of high-paid people to an area.
Yeah.
So how do we take advantage of that? Well, I'm that, this is out of my lane, but that would be to make the zoning as easy as possible.
Yeah, I mean, from, not, I don't, well, you can get an IDA, but, you know, my thought is, and you guys, I don't know if you travel a lot of sports arenas, I don't, but it's similar to the fair. Like you go to the, I'm not dropping money, I'm dropping money at the fair. Like I come in from out of town, my money goes to the fair, I pack up in my car and I'm gone. You know, so should the zoning be more compatible with hotels?
Yeah.
Tourism, you know, restaurants, like amenities that people come in, you know, so when you come in, if you see how the Bills travel, I'm sure other teams travel like we do in terms of, like how many Bills fans were in Miami, you know, that maybe came in from out of town, and what's the impact, you know, of that weekend there, you know, so you can't go to a Bills, I mean, if I was coming in and go to a Bills game, you know, you're probably staying downtown or.
And if you didn't know any better, imagine
So-
you stayed at one of those dumps on Southwestern.
Yeah.
You were like, what the hell is going on in Buffalo? That's why Tom Brady's parents hate him.
Yeah.
Where do you stay in Hamburg? Because really, there's only one or hotel probably.
But if you're just like, hey, I got Bills fans.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
You gotta Google it on your phone. What's close?
What's that other hotel off of 56? No, that's the 56.
There's a couple hotels.
Yeah, right.
Near the
drug
warehouse.
addict place there.
Well, I know those hotels are bringing their own issues to it.
Yeah,
They know town hotels.
Hotel 6,
Motel 6.
either way time.
That's about it.
But no, it would be good to get ahead on it, because if you
We
look
can't do
at,
it Sinister.
but no, I'm just, well, I mean, but
Can we?
you look at other places that, because you asked the
Service is
question.
not readily available.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do anything we want, we might just get sued.
You look at
It's
this,
like we want, I mean.
You know my philosophy, if I can make Erie County look bad, I'm good. Whoa, I'm on record for that.
You know, and that's it.
if you go to these other places, they're built on a site like that has everything there.
Right.
I mean, you're right. I've been to other stadiums and they're usually the baseball stadiums next to the football stadium, like Pittsburgh. Everyone been down downtown Pittsburgh. It's beautiful, you know. But there is nothing. You're right. I mean, I think Mayor Moses brought that up. What can we
Well,
do on our side of the
And
line?
well, I guess even what we can do is, because it goes way before, you know, not to be flippant with policy, but it goes way before the ITA. Like you said, these,
Oh, yeah.
you need to look at the zones, you know, you need to look at the town and the regional planning and make it compatible to get people in the town.
We're part of the package.
So,
But
yeah,
but the town right now is just redoing their strategic plan, and this would be the golden opportunity to do it.
yeah.
I mean,
We're part of the enticement.
that's right. I mean, they should be thinking of these things.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody's really brought that to the foresight.
I don't think anybody's talked about the
None of
state.
that was discussed.
But that's a new, sort of a new revelation. I think
Yeah,
everybody's
true.
expected that stadium to be downtown, which I'm not.
But there's still opportunity.
That it's not gonna be downtown.
No, I don't think you're going downtown.
Downtown.
I don't think so. They ain't got the place for it.
The convention.
They'd have to
center,
take the whole
they're gonna
waterfront. They don't want to do that.
They were talking about the Perry projects that we were pointing. That's where they were gonna put it, but
Yeah, well, guess what? There's a lot of people in this place.
there ain't nobody in the damn projects, bro. When's the last time you've been off of Route 5?
And what's your house?
Yeah, you probably did. You better not be there when I ain't home, man.
I ain't gonna tell you. Yeah, that's what the old man does with blonde with gray hair.
Based on that, Sean, what would be a takeaway from that discussion? Because that was a good discussion.
I think the town planning, I think now is a good time, you know, we're gonna come back to SUNY Erie ECC, and more in the land meeting. But, I think planning and zoning appropriately, specifically to that project, but going back to, the the higher education, you know, I don't know if the board has ideas, but that's my path. That's gonna be, you know, my path to try to move that. I think we talked about it a lot. I think there's a good opportunity there if we can, you know, bridge that gap between the employers and the jobs.
You're going that way anyway, right? We're not, that's your goal from the 2019 meeting.
Yeah,
We're
I mean,
not gonna
but
stop.
now's the
We're gonna
time,
keep
but we
going.
can change that. I mean, we can certainly abandon
No,
things
keep going.
that
I'm
aren't
saying.
working.
My opinion, keep going.
But, no, I think that's it. Now, at the end of the day, you know, who knows the reason? Maybe as we do this and take that exercise, we'll get feedback from the college, you know, and see. You know, what we need to pay attention to, and this is unanswered, is, you know, if these employers like the HSBC, and these people work out of their homes, well, what's the taxable value? You know, and how many people are going to be potentially, you know, there's going to be, it's obvious that there's going to be a decrease in commercial real estate occupancy for office space. I mean, anybody, if you talk to anybody that is saying they've been home for, where, I don't know, how long has it been now? Going on 2 years, year and 8 months, and they're going back full time. I don't know if you've heard of Cam, it's going to be a hybrid.
Nobody's thrilled about it.
So,
And they are.
well, yeah,
Anyone given the option, maybe not to everyone, but in a general sense.
yeah.
the
I haven't,
population wants to stay.
I haven't heard from anybody that, maybe one or two, that like they've gone back full time and they have
We
to
don't-
be in the
we don't get
office.
laid off either.
Everything's hybrid. So, you know, that's gonna have a negative impact on taxable value for commercial investment. We're gonna need less office space. So, do we want to target these employers that don't need offices? That's another question. It's interesting, but I think it's too soon to dive into that.
And you write off your own space as an office.
So, yeah,
That's, you know, that's the other part. Space now becomes.
I mean, that's just one, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of benefits for people that work at home.
Write it off every year.
Your automobile insurance
I bet.
is less, your gas is less.
Yeah.
$3.50 a gallon or $3.30 a
Yeah,
gallon.
stay home with 5 kids.
Well, that's why, you know,
That was by choice.
Not staying home part
Well,
one.
yeah, you had 3 at the beginning of the pandemic, now he's got 5.
Yeah, it was a 2-child pandemic. Those good ones. So, yeah, so I think that's the takeaway. Keep going, you know, I've established some framework there where I think there's a path forward. Hilbert is certainly going to be more receptive to us than UB. You know, UB has a little bit of hubris among them, and so I think it'd be interesting. And if there's success with UB, then it would make sense to go. But maybe look at some of these very specialized schools and employers and bridge the gap. Okay, next item, we're gonna do a little roundtable exercise for both companies. Also, I'll pass around cards and we're gonna read through these. So don't get too nasty. Like nice, Bob. So these are more so activities that the agency has taken. So decisions that we've weighed on as an agency through the land corp or the IDA. So these would be, you know, projects that we should have done and we didn't, or, you know, maybe areas that we should have focus on that we don't have focus on, industries or like areas that may be deemed more retail. Because certainly we have a voice, you know, in economic development through me with the state. We can say what, you know, we feel the needs are, whether or not decisions are changed to accommodate them, you know, who knows, but, so it'd be something that we've done that you feel very good about, and something that you may don't feel so good about, or efforts that you think we should focus towards, more efforts focused towards. Does everybody kind of get that? It's essentially like a positive and a negative through the agency, but more specifically for agency activities.
How long are we going back to, just the last year?
Oh, you could, I mean, as long as you've been on the board.
All right.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Said a year.
If anybody needs pens, Mary has pens.
You know, you keep calling machine repair a skilled trade. You're lucky my dad was a machine repair.
It is good. Mechanical genius. Sheet metal, all you do is. beep, 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 beep,
Well, I'm a millwright too now.
beep. Oh, you're a millwright too now.
It's even worse.
If you got both of them.
Yeah, I think it'd be good.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a card, right? You can take a minute.
Holy cow, a whole minute.
We're doing great on time.
Eat.
I was hoping to be out by 7:30. I don't know what your hope was.
That's how much I wanted to drink. I went to coffee, so we're good to go. I don't need cream. I don't need sugar.
What's her last name? What's her last name?
No?
Your pens don't work?
They're straightening out.
Are you short? I got one, Bob.
Need more pens?
No, we're good.
Why, you got ones with your name on it?
No, I left them in the car. I can go get them.
The town supervisor?
Right, for my write-in campaign, write-in for Wentz. Does that sound
Hey, you
good?
see that latest poll
What's that?
on the Buffalo?
No, I didn't. What,
It's not gonna be close.
for Byron, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my man. Oh,
All right, I'm unmuted. We're live.
Damn. And Andy said,
All right, I'm gonna go through these, see if we can learn some things, and this might, again, all these activities tonight are help us establish our path forward.
Just from way years ago. Oh,
Development of Route 5 land and potential redevelopment of Scott Street property as a positive. More development in Blaisdell and Woodlawn. Good point.
is Janet here? Oh, I heard the Blaisdell part.
Hey, man, Blaisdell boys.
Oh, there it is.
You don't know, you don't know?
Last time mine.
did you go to the wake for the Blaisdell?
What's that?
McDonald's, Roseanne McDonald's.
Hey, congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Not there yet.
What's in the
I heard
background?
you're running again for election.
Okay, next, positive, we're not afraid to act on projects and need to win the high-paying jobs. The employment, thank you. Sean and Jennifer, and Mary, leadership, appreciate all the work. Focus on higher paying jobs. McKinley Mall area. These are things we're gonna get to. So McKinley. And then the South Shore.
Right. I just don't build a stadium there.
And exit 57.
Closer to the city.
Right off the thruway.
this is not for you guys.
FedEx project led to future IDA expansion. The land development corp purchasing the vacant land is a positive. Better educate the public, but you can't force them to pay attention to the good both agencies do.
Mine too.
This is something. Next page. PR.
He said 7:30. 4:30, 7:30, 3 hours, bro. Jesus Christ.
Another sketch.
Reinvestment in existing properties, lack of involvement in town planning. Let's know about upcoming projects.
I heard Mercy's walking. They're gonna walk.
Human resources, getting Sean, Palace Theater loan. Something we didn't mention. Need to fill vacant building. Diversity of projects has improved industrial logistics, manufacturing, pseudo retail. Negative, improving relationships with key state leaders, especially those who oppose IDAs. Okay. Amazon board did a great job in hiring search committee. No negatives. You only get 50%. Oh, maybe this is it. Keep thinking about more people having a positive attitude about everything in general. Always have negative attitudes and nothing will happen. That's true. Negative focus. Start to Scott Street acquisition was a positive. Opportunity to connect with more high school age to bring into skilled trades. So I think that was a good exercise. Thank you. Some of these areas go to like the McKinley Mall development in Blaisdell, South Shore Exit 57, vacant buildings, they'll go into some of the talk we'll get into with the land corp. You know, the jobs, PR and communication is something, the communication with the state legislatures, I think is another great initiative. Skilled trades is another one that we haven't had a lot of focus on. So like, you know, how can the IDA work more to bridge that gap? So we do have, you know, flipping back to the first page, we have additional resources now. We have additional money. And this money, you know, shouldn't sit idle in our accounts. You know, we should look at strategic ways to redeploy it to push our mission forward as an agency. So I think looking into some of these topics, this was one that I had in the back of my mind. As whoever talked about town planning, we want to offer a little bit more input. What were your thoughts to that end?
Well, I know the town planning board gets a lot of projects ahead of us, all right, before we see them. And if they would start, you know, they're talking to businesses out there. I was thinking if they could start referring stuff to us as well, to see if we can help them out with incentives. To, you know, get a project done and do some hiring and stuff like that, because the first step is not always, it should be to you. The first step should be to our IDI, but the first step really in town government is to a town planning board, because they want to get the project approved first. And so if they took, whether it's in a village or the village planning board, Blaisdell planning board, or the town planning board, if they came forward, maybe we could help out with these projects with incentives to help them invest even more. You know, make it a bigger project sometimes for us and stuff like that, what they're doing. That was just my thought.
I think the discussion about the bill statement is another
Yeah.
great example.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
If it was all part of the
planning.
package, like, hey, the
Right.
bills are moving and the field house might be in. We need to do something really cool there, attract some business with a combination of incentives. I know that's not our jurisdiction, but could you do something really cool there with incentives?
What really thought was Tommy Moses a lot, you know, the old supermarket. You know, if they already went to the planning board, get approval and everything like this, and they did come to us, but we have so many projects out there like that. If they go to the planning board, they don't stop by us and see us and say, hey, what can we do?
That's a good point. So like the planning board says, oh, you need to do sidewalks in the front, or we're not gonna approve the project. Well, that's gonna put it over my budget.
Right.
But
How
hold
many
on.
of those die?
How many of those die on the vine? I was
Right.
on a planning commission, but can't tell you how many projects that there is just a little green space and sidewalks just deter. I was
Right.
like, it's like a $20,000 net, like, investment.
Especially for a small business.
If you make that up in a pilot,
Right.
they'll even invest,
Or even-
especially small business.
I like it, Bob
Yeah,
can
no,
speak
no,
more on
yeah.
it, but this assessment freeze here is an interesting idea to me, because is if we take older buildings and get them refurbished and get them back online, we don't have to always build new, you know? I mean, that was a huge eye opener. That's a $4 million they put into the village. That's big. Even if you don't see the take back in 5 years, but you know, you're still getting taxes.
And just in terms of the process, I agree with you that we could work more in line with planning. They have to get that approval before they can go to us. This is a point of clarification. So they have to get those entitlement approvals before they can at least have an IDA vote. Like, we can't put forth a project, any project, until it's received this site plan approval.
But if we read the planning board minutes, perhaps, we could get some
I
information
can't.
and reach out to them.
Is the planning board a closed meeting?
No, that's open meeting. They have their agenda, everything, actually, the town of Hamburg, I've looked at a couple other municipalities, but town of Hamburg's really leading the pack with meetings on Zoom, on Facebook Live. They're doing very good in terms of transparency. It makes it easy for not only myself, but the general population to know what's going on. They're good timely with agendas and everything.
So Jen, they cannot come to us before they get approval from the town board?
They
For the
can,
town planning board?
they can come to us, but the IDA can't approve a project.
Right, but if we knew about it, if they would kind of do a joint venture. In other words, somebody coming in here, like Andy says, they need, I know that, I was on the planning board. We want sidewalks, we want this done, and it's really because the people around in the surrounding area want certain things done.
And it's selling the project's over budget.
Yeah, and they say, I can't do it. It's $50,000 more, but maybe the incentives came in and we can't guarantee it to them, but at least if they talk to us, we might be able to help.
Another option would be for the IDA to do its own permit. But I don't think we're equipped or have.
That would require our lawyer.
engineering staff. Well, a lot of it's engineering as well. We don't have staff to do.
So what it do, is that a practice in some IDAs that if it comes in front, like,
But they have a system.
so,
Let's take them on.
no. I don't know, I mean, I'm
We're recording,
curious to
Bob.
understand
I don't
how,
give a shit.
so if I'm a developer and I'm doing a adaptive reuse and I'm seeking a pilot and sales tax, or more likely sales tax created in the city, or say it's in Cheektowaga. So there's like a no, I don't know, well, they may have the 405, but standard pilot. The county, Cheektowaga doesn't do this.
Yeah.
I think they go through their own independent secrets.
Oh, okay. So it's essentially, it's an added expense, added layer that they don't do.
And to declare the agency, to declare it. 30 days to respond. So it's time to.
I think that's, I mean, I think it's a good idea, but I'm more of the, is there a way to figure out what projects are coming?
Well, I think paying attention to the agenda.
Or what
of the
Yeah.
meetings.
Having a joint work session with planning board and saying, hey,
Yeah,
here's your
yeah.
application. That brochure, she had that.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, is it, I'm sure, at some levels, because I refer people over, they're questioning the process and, they have a parcel and is it zoned correctly?
Could it just simply was making the efforts to set out in the building department, the planning department, the towns and the buildings.
Yeah, they have both.
Just see that, oh, what's this?
Yeah. Yeah, certainly.
There's something there, because that strikes a chord with me, because I don't know, again,
Sorry.
There's an awful lot of small businesses that want to start, and they have no idea what they can do.
Yes.
Yeah, and particularly the loan fund too, because that does a lot, it's more diverse, we can do more different types of business. And it's more applicable, I mean, to make a pilot worthwhile, financially, and to make it supportive of a company, you typically need upwards of $200,000 or more $100,000 of investment. So the people that are, purchasing craft and core, they're not spending to them. So it wouldn't make financial sense for them if they need financial assistance. But the loan program, the other activities we didn't talk to, like seeking out the CARES monies that we're working on now, the $400,000 in potential grants to businesses, small businesses. So you're right, they're like getting out there.
Doing the different departments in the town. And if they could hand that out, hey, somebody comes in the assessor's office, I'm interested in building this building, you can hand it out.
Yeah, Mary's
Or
got the
building,
materials.
building
just
inspection
bring them over.
department, they can hand it, here's something to look at, they have the different programs that, are out there.
Yeah.
Do the town and village websites link to the IDA?
I believe so.
So it's
I'd have to look at yours.
people are
The
looking.
town does. But I don't know about the village. I'll take a look. That's a good one.
I don't think he's here yet. You can encourage those people that may have first contact.
Yeah.
And as an employee now of the government, I can tell you, and I can say it before, but I can definitely say now, is don't expect them to go the extra mile. So if the materials are there, they'll do it. If it's not
Well, we
there,
have
they're not gonna
relationships
walk
with
over.
planning, I mean, it's important that, like, we brought up
Right or
earlier.
wrong, Bob.
You
Right
might
or
not
wrong,
get it,
Thank you.
you might not agree on everything, but you still gotta work together.
Push them over.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, and skilled trades, I got that.
My feathers up this week, and you guys probably didn't see it. Went Beach, they want to put $14 million, Tommy, into Went Beach to redo the mansion. With federal funds. Now, you know how hard I fought for that one beach back in 2006, 7, and getting it. The beach has been closed. They want to take federal funds now after all these years instead of allocating money to come in to safeguard it and keep it going. And that's why I'm saying these governments, they get in their silos and they stay in their silos and they don't get out. And that's why whenever you look at something, look at the silos that are created and why they don't want to, because Bobby's an assessment. This is my baby. Leave me alone, right? And that's how it goes. But that was huge. That it just made me mad. Because that's not good, a good way to use $14 million of federal funds. Sorry, off the record.
You're okay. I'm
It's
just.
on the record, bro.
I'm off the record now. Off the record, Pablo.
Okay, so looking ahead, so this is the, actually the planning of the session is very timely because we're going into budget season in the next month. So marketing and PR is one that I had, and I can talk to that a little bit more. I want to keep things moving. Scott Street is another, so, jumping ahead to the land corp, Scott Street still somewhat of a question mark. We're doing our due diligence process and moving forward with that, but we're gonna have to make some financial decisions if we do determine that we want to redevelop that property. I think in tune with that, on the marketing and PR side, we need some projects. I think it's important for the idea, and not that this project was developed around that, but I think this is a project that redevelopment is one that will resonate with everyone. So, in terms of partnering, and we're going to need the support of the state, we're going to need the support of the town. I think that's, I don't see that site getting reactivated without our involvement. And I think that everyone, once we have these materials collated, the work that we're doing right now, the due diligence, once these numbers are there, they're gonna say, yeah, this is a yeoman's task. If somebody like a quasi-public agency doesn't do it, this is gonna be slum and blight to the neighborhood, to the surrounding community. It's not gonna be the catalyst for this comprehensive plan that the village has put together. So I think it's gonna be an awesome, public partnership, maybe even private funded to some extent, that will redevelop this. And I think that will show the state that we're looking to do things. We're not just an agency that, gives out bags of money. This is an agency that, looks for qualified projects, but then looks to reinvest, to be successful financially and to reinvest this money in the community. So those are the ones that I think that when you talk to the legislators about, will help to bridge that gap. Some of the projects we're not going to agree on. And, I've learned, I don't know if you've had this knowledge, but it seems like more so with Rivera, because I see John Rivera more, you may not agree on something one day and you're at battle from it, but the next day is the next day. And there's a new focus and there's new projects. So, we may not agree on what Amazon was and how Amazon was working out, but on another project, long Scott Street, I think that can help, bridge that gap and make that partnership. Contributing legislation, potential legislation on the training aspect and things like that. I think those help to build those relationships. Marketing and PR, I've been talking with Mary on working together a more formal marketing plan for the agency and making more regular and regimented inputs into social media. Because as much as I don't like to think it's important what all of our followers in the public are seeing the agency do. It's a good opportunity for us to tell our story versus any other publication writing the story for us. We can put our story forward. So, if we go into budgets, I'm going to look to some investments and propose some investments in training so we can get into that. Another thing we could look at is event planning to look at, either if we do this redevelopment when it's done, or even before that, to try to do, you know, maybe a public event a year. I know Mike did some type of reception. I don't know if it directly involved the IDA or what the IDA role was that.
Wasn't there problems with legality on that, Jennifer? or-
It ran through the Hamburg Development. Corp.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The HDC. So.
You did after a year.
It was, we do that, and then there's essentially sponsorships. And I think I've been to a couple events, like, you know, this may be off for another year. Because you're not getting you're not getting the sponsorships. It's very difficult. Like, for, you know, the Chamber Golf Tournament, you declined a lot more than you were in years past. Simple things, like a $25 gift certificate, you know, calling, you know, Powell's is always great, but, you know, the volume of donations into those events has shrunk. And that's how that special event ran, was through corporate sponsorship. I do get a little concerned about a potential conflict of interest to that extent, so that was something I didn't like. But I think I think it's something to think about, and as we emerge out of the pandemic and these events are more productive and more sponsored, there's potential for that. Looking into more of a formal editorial calendar, which is like how often and when do you do press releases and PR notifications to social media, and then, you know, right up into a formal marketing plan. So that was some of the marketing and PR efforts. I think it's important. And I'm going to put together some more detail into that as we go into budget season, and we can, you know, look through it and weigh in on it a little bit deeper. Pitch Hamburg. I know that, you know, that agency is, you know, will be more formally looking to the IDA for support. And then, as was brought up tonight, skilled trades. You know, maybe if not this year, you know, how do we, you know, what are the roads that we take and what are the steps that we take to have more focus on that? And, you know, we talked about that for probably about a half hour. So it's an important topic, and the employers need it. And it's very similar to the collegiate roles. You know, if we can, we know there's the gaps are there. How do we fill the gaps and make these employers more successful so they don't move out of town?
I took a tour of the Northland Training Center because I kind of took it upon myself to try and find at our plant when we're hiring skilled trades, they all look the same. It's usually a white male, and you know, myself being, you know, I'm half Puerto Rican, half Polish. I tried to branch out and see if we could find somebody that looks different. Some more women, some people of color. And I took a tour to Northland Training Center, which was former local 508, Niagara Machine Torques. And it's what they do there is amazing. If you guys have a chance, especially the school board people, you guys could take a tour of that. It's amazing what they do there. They're spitting out electricians with 2-year degrees in electrical background, and then some tool and die makers as well.
How's the student body? Like, is there a lot of are the classes full and then graduating, or what's that like? I don't.
Well, they're graduating, but they're having a hard time, believe it or not, placing them, because we're looking for people with 8 years experience or already have a journeyman card. So, and some of them would feel they're having a hard time being placed because of how they look. You know, I'm not buying or selling that, but they believe it's an issue. Some of the people that I know work there, but it's very impressive what they got set up there. I don't know if you guys ever get a chance. It's a facility. Yeah.
Not familiar with it?
It's all pretty. I just seen the outside. Looks awesome.
I took a tour. Yeah.
Where is it?
You know what? Brian Higgins was very big into it.
It's not far from ECMC or the old Seneca vocational. Yeah.
Brian Higgins. Can I go off the record? Can I shut that off?
Not yet. I'm about ready to adjourn
One
this.
more. Okay, good. I got one
Write it
more.
down. Now. Don't forget it. Write it
I
down.
won't forget it.
All right, any need for executive session? Let's call. Okay, motion to adjourn the September 22nd, 2021 Hamburg IDA meeting. We still have our land court meeting, 6:48 PM.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Did you get that, Mary? You guys. Wait, it's on record. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting closed. Meeting closed. Let me,